Okay, so I decided to make this video based on a question that I saw on Facebook yesterday. I'm in various Facebook photography groups. This one's designed to get find models and stuff like that. Uh, but some random person wrote on there and they said they were looking to get into photography. Well, let me rephrase that. It was unclear. They said they were looking to get a better camera, but they also sounded like, or she also sounded like she didn't really know what she was doing. Like she'd never really been a photographer. So people were just tossing out recommendations, and most people, uh, I'm talking about like there's different levels of photographers, and I'd say your average photographer isn't really a photographer, and I'm not saying that I really qualify yet, but it's just somebody who bought a cheap camera and goes on shoots and doesn't really know anything about the art, anything about. When I say about the art, I don't mean being arty. I mean what separates good photography from bad photography, which is really knowing your camera, knowing how to use it to its maximum effect. Which is why I would say that I don't know that I'm quite there yet, but I'm on the road to being a good photographer at least, and it took a long time for me to get there. But anyway, most photographers that aren't really photographers will just say, "Oh, this is the camera that I have, therefore you should buy that." And I don't really think that way, at least not now. Uh, but I had to think about it, and I ended up just saying, "Hey, well, what's your budget?" Because that's important. Because you need lenses as well. That's a lot of things when people are looking. What kind of camera should I buy? What's your budget? Because you're probably going to want to split that in half and spend the other half on lenses. Because if you're just getting a kit lens, you know, granted, uh, you can get a pretty cheap, fast 50 millimeter lens, so you don't necessarily have to go half. If you're just starting out, go with a 50 millimeter f1.8. There's definitely as good as those lenses are. There's definitely some very inexpensive starter ones. But anyway, it depends on how much your budget is, and also what are you looking to do this? What are you looking to do with it? Like, are you got kids and you just want to take pictures of them, and get better or something like that. You're looking like, oh no, I want to do this for a living, because that affects it too. Um, but one of the things I had to think about is, so I'm a mirrorless guy now. I have two mirrorless cameras, both Sonys. I have this one, the A6400. Speaking of 50 millimeter f1.8s, this is the full frame one, which a lot of people don't recommend, but with the higher end cameras, it's fine. Like these used to have problems, like with focusing and stuff like that, and most of those problems aren't really that relevant anymore with the newer cameras. But the reason I'm shooting this on my Pixel 3 is just because I wanted to hold this and just talk about it. Uh, but anyway, sorry, lost my train of thought there. So I'm in a mirrorless now, but there's a lot of things that you have to think about when you go into mirrorless that you don't have to think about when you're a DSLR person. Uh, I never worried about sensor cleaning when I had a DSLR. Um, it has like that auto. If you don't know much about cameras, your sensor is basically replaces the film. So it's this very delicate piece of, I don't know, I guess it's glass. But on a DSLR, you do have to worry about dust getting inside your camera because obviously you're going to switch lenses from time to time. And on a DSLR, the mirror kind of covers it up, so you don't have to worry about it as much. Just don't, whenever you're changing lenses, make sure that your your camera is off. You know, I know I'm being sort of treating you like you're stupid here, but make sure it's off because, as I understand it, like the electricity draws in whatever dust is around you. But yeah, so that's a DSLR. So I never really worried about it. You do eventually have to get your sensor cleaned, but it's not that often. On a mirrorless camera, you don't have that piece of glass, so you definitely have to worry about cleaning your sensor. And if you don't have a lot of money to send your camera off to the places that do it for you, you're gonna have to do it yourself. I've only done it once, and it's since I bought my A7 III. I was super nervous. It was easy, but again, that sensor is delicate. You can't just, you know, you don't want like your little brush dripping with fluid and all that. Anyway, it just made me super nervous. So, if somebody was just starting out, oh, that was one of the reasons. Another reason is like with the super new cameras, you know, if you're going to shoot raw, and you should be shooting raw if you're looking to really do photography now, um, you got to make sure that you're using like an up to date version of. I personally use Lightroom. I know a lot of people say you also should be using Photoshop in conjunction with Lightroom. I'm not there yet. I'm pretty good with Lightroom. I'm not ready to really be fooling with Photoshop. And actually, I'm about ready to, because they keep rising. The cost of Lightroom and Photoshop keeps rising. They're increasing the price of the plan, so I'm actually thinking about getting rid of Adobe altogether. Anyway, neither here nor there. But there's a lot of stuff to think about if you're getting a mirrorless camera. And so, if you're just starting out, I wouldn't suggest getting this. As much as this, if I was to suggest, you know, what kind of camera I would want to get if I was talking to me, it would be this one, the A6400. Again, I love my A7 III. This is $1,000. This camera is almost as good as the A7 III. It's missing features that the A7 III has, including the in-body image stabilization. But this is absolutely the camera I would choose, and I would suggest. But that's for somebody in my position, somebody that was looking to move up, that had, you know, done everything they could do with a DSLR. Um, but if you're just starting out, you don't want to have to worry about things like sensor cleanings. Um, and you might be able to, like, if you get an older model camera, you can probably just go on eBay and get an older copy of Lightroom to learn with, which is what I had. I had Lightroom 5 up until literally I got my A7 III. And again, that was something I hadn't thought about, was, oh, you can't just plug and play with these newer cameras. The firmware has to be updated. And on an older version of Lightroom, at some point, Adobe stops. Well, especially now that they're doing the Creative Cloud stuff, where they want you to pay a monthly subscription fee. They don't update those old versions anymore. So if you want a new camera, you have to get a newer version of whatever software you're using. So what I recommend? Well, I used to be a Nikon guy, and I do like Nikon. So I can't really make any recommendations on a lower end model of DSLRs for Canon. I mean, I've used my friend's 6D, my friend Fletch Boogie. Uh, Obviously, you can always recommend like the 5D Mark III or the 5D Mark IV. If you're just starting out, you're definitely, unless you're an idiot, you're not getting a 1DX. You'd have to be an idiot to get that. It's an amazing camera, but it's not for beginners. Honestly, the 5D Marks 3 and 4, you probably shouldn't be getting that either. Those are full frame cameras. You don't need those to just get started. Um, so Canon side, I mean, look, Canon and Nikon both make great cameras. You just, you know, well, I guess I'm recommending something. I guess I can't just say just get one. It doesn't matter, because it does matter. On the Nikon side, I had a D7100. I don't have anymore. I just sold it. If you can find a used D7100, that's a pretty good starter camera. Um, if you have more of a budget, maybe a D500. That seems to be the best over like all around camera that Nikon has put out in a while. There are obviously better Nikons like the D850 and the D5 and all that. But again, those are cameras for people who've been doing this a while. But I feel like a D500 is kind of the max if you're going for like a good overall. Like, is it technically a starter camera? Probably not, but I feel like you do pretty well buying it, even if you're a beginner. But yeah, I'd say a D7100 would be good because well, I guess they don't make lenses anymore that don't have autofocus in the lens. Nikon anyway. Like, obviously there's specialty lenses, but so yeah, my recommendation is definitely going with like a lower end Nikon. I've never really liked the lower end ones. Like I had a D40. It's now like the 3000 series, so 3500 I think is what they're on now. The D3500. I've never really liked those. I'd say either get like a used D7100, maybe D7200, or go the D500. But eventually, when you feel like you've progressed to a certain point, maybe in a few years, Nikon and Canon will have caught up to Sony on the mirrorless stuff. So you might not, you might just stick with whatever your brand is. Right now they're not there. Even though my understanding is that the Z6, I think it is, or the Z5, whatever, those are pretty good. They're for Nikon's first entry. The EOS R, from what I've seen, it's okay. It's not where it needs to be. But yeah, this has rambled on quite a bit more than I expected. But rambling's more or less what I do. So thank you for watching this. If you did, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I mentioned, feel free. And if you like awkward people that are learning to be YouTubers, or specifically learning to be effective on camera, subscribe. So, all right, bye.